Thank you for that, Makai, for the intro. As mentioned in my previous vlog, this video will be focusing on the 10 days of work I had in Japan and Korea. So 5 days in Japan and 5 days in Korea. And even though it was 10 days of work, there was only really 2 projects that we were working on. So I'll split this video up in 2 sections, so 1 per project. And one of the projects was a continuation of the Lee Jeans campaign. And for the first project, I really didn't have that much B-roll at all, and you'll see why in a sec. And because of that, I'm probably going to talk a bit more around the project, the experiences that I had, the gear that I used, and the lessons that I learned as well. For the first project, which took 3 days of filming in Japan, our client for this was Stitch Down, and we were helping them create the Soul Searching series on YouTube. I really don't know much about boots, but if you are, definitely check out the series. There's I think 3 or 4 episodes out right now. I can't lie, even during the filming process, it was actually so eye-opening just how much there is to learn about boots. It was great, it was a great shoot. It was 3 days of filming and I was the DOP for this shoot. I wasn't involved in any of the post-production side at all, so I was only filming. But for this project, it was actually quite an intense 3-day shoot, but the premise of the project itself is actually quite simple. So we'd go visit a bootmaker and their factory or shop. We'd then film an intro. We'd capture B-roll of the guests and the location. Then we'd also film an interview/interaction between Ben, the founder of Stitch Down, and the guests. So yeah, nothing too crazy. It was literally just that formula repeating in different locations. With these kind of shoots, they're not too taxing mentally anyway, but it was taxing physically. So, you know, there was a lot of walking. I think we did around like 25 to 30k steps per day whilst carrying gear as well. Now, in terms of gear, it was obviously dictated by the type of project we're filming. So for this, we're following Ben, interview people, which means we'd also need to record the guests as well. So that told me that I had to prioritize a few things. I had to make sure I had stable shots and good audio for Ben and his guests. And to make sure we had enough coverage in terms of shots and B-roll, it was quite important for me to have an assistant/second camera operator. But yeah, to cover all of those things, I made sure to bring a gimbal to this trip so I could just specifically use it for this project. A good friend of mine, Kay, who's another amazing cinematographer, connected me to Nene, who's also a great cinematographer based in Japan. And if I remember correctly, she did study in Australia, and that helped with communication a lot because she could speak English really well. But speaking of, I really want to learn Japanese anyway because I want to work in Japan a lot more. But anyway, for audio, I really wanted to make sure that I also had a backup source, not just the audio source coming from the camera. So I really wanted to use the Rode Wireless Pros because I know I could record internally into the mics as well as my camera recording the audio. And because I didn't own these mics, Nene was really helpful again because she actually rented these out for me. And in case for extra guests, I also had my Hollyland Lark M1s with me, and that was more of a just in case. And I also made sure to bring lighting for this trip, but I had to make sure they were lightweight. So I brought my FX30 with me, the Xeon Molus X100, and also the Xeon Molus G60. And even though the Xeon Molus lights are quite small, I still had to bring small light stands with me as well, just to make sure really, because I didn't really want to be holding them up. But now let's actually talk about the cameras. So Nene brought with her an A7S III. I actually had that on the gimbal with my Tamron 28-75, and that gimbal camera would then serve to be the A cam, and I would connect the Hollyland Lark mics to that as well in case I needed it. The FX30 was then fully rigged up, and that was the B cam, which Nene was handling. We went with this option so that I could use the FX30 audio handle on the camera and we could connect the Rode Wireless Pros to that. And that was so I could make sure that we could have the best audio quality possible. And to make sure Nene won't have to change batteries too many times, we also attached a V-mount battery at the back, which was from ZG Cine. And we also put a 5-inch monitor from Shimbo on top as well. And that was a rig. So in terms of the lessons I learned in this project, first one's definitely around carrying only what I really need to use. Just from the setup alone, there's a lot of gear involved around audio, batteries, gimbal, camera. It was heavy and I definitely overpacked for days 1 and 2 as well, which wasn't too bad, but it just meant that it was more annoying to travel between locations because there was just a lot more stuff and it was hot. So carrying all of that stuff in the heat, knowing that they're not even getting used is a little bit annoying for me. And it was only really in day 3 that we minimized all of our gear. And that was probably like our most efficient day in terms of carrying stuff. But just reiterating that, I just really needed to make sure that I only carry what I needed to bring, especially on long shoot days. And lesson 2 is kind of linked to lesson 1 as well, as this one's around efficiency. I'd like to think that Nene and I actually worked quite well together because there were 2 cameras in a situation where only one person can film at a time. The other would be filming B-roll, for example. And that was sick because that ensured that we had enough coverage in terms of getting enough footage. But one thing I forgot to do was to make sure I offload all of the footage at the end of each day. And it did mean that at the end of day 3, where I had to offload all of the footage, this step took a lot longer than it should have, because I was offloading from each SD card for the video, and also I had to get the files off of the Rode mics as well. And this process could have gone a lot quicker if I've DIT'd the previous 2 days, because it would mean then 2/3 of the footage would have just gone SSD to SSD instead of SD card to SSD. But that's it for this project. It was actually really sick working with Stitch Down on this. Again, I learned a lot about boots, and now for the remaining 7 days, I'll be showing you guys the behind the scenes on the Lee Jeans campaign in Japan and Korea. So in Japan we covered 3 talents, and in Korea it was still 5 days, but technically 2 were travel days, and in those 3 working days we covered 3 talents as well. But yeah, enjoy.
3, 2, 1. And 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
これ外すんですけど。
And 3, 2, 1. Yeah, and action. action. 3, 2, 1.
乾杯。うまっ。
はい。
Thank you.